Hello and welcome to our very first special edition emergency episode of Law Candor. For those of you who are new to the show, Law Candor is the podcast wholly devoted to pursuing the legal technology revolution. I am Bill Mariano and I'm here with my co-host Rob Hellewell. And again, welcome to the show. It is an emergency podcast, right? What is the emergency? I think we're all living through it, right? We're all stuck at home. We're living in a Groundhog Day event here, where every day we wake up and we're not leaving our houses. It's COVID-19, and this is really affecting not only our space but the whole world. Let's face it, right? So before we get into our very special guest today, we've asked our CEO Brian McManus to join us, and he'll be joining in just a minute. We want to, of course, start the show with
Sightings of Radical Brilliance.
As the name implies, this is the part of the show where we bring to you the latest news around noteworthy innovation and acts of sheer genius. Rob, what do we have today?
Well, like Bill, this one was an easy one. I think, the news, it almost looks like a flashback to World War II, where we have companies like Tesla and GM are repurposing assembly lines to sort of meet this emergency and create ventilators and masks and other, health important products. And I think it's interesting, like on the one hand, this is kind of hardwired into, our American industrial, culture that, we can do things like this. But on the other hand, creating something like a ventilator, maybe not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just, turn a GM plant. Look, they have state-of-the-art assembly lines, obviously, right? But to turn that plant into, and I'm no logistics expert, but turning that plant into to making a Chrysler or a Ford or a GM car or even a Tesla into making ventilators can't be as easy as flipping a switch.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it seems like a lot of the stories, at least that I've read, with kind of medical device manufacturers saying that, hey, these are complicated products. They use software. It's not just hardware, first of all. It's life-saving equipment. There's a lot of, sort of fail-safes that have to go into these things. I agree. I think it's going to be a real test of how, our industry can respond to something like this.
Yeah, I mean, then again, Elon Musk is stepping up to the challenge, and frankly, I don't think there's anything that guy can't do. I mean, he woke up one day and decided he wanted to go to Mars. I mean, I wake up one day and decide I want to go to Mars. It just means I'm going to have an extra glass of scotch. He wakes up and decides he's going to go to Mars. He's actually going to Mars, right? So I don't think there's anything the guy can't do. I just don't think it's going to be as easy as, what we're hearing on the news. Oh, GM's going to step up and we're going to have 100,000 ventilators next week. It's just not going to be that easy.
Yeah, and even if it's not easy, I hope it's successful. Obviously, not because we want to save lives and we're really in the face of a true crisis. But I think it's it could be a really great story about not just the country coming together, but everybody kind of playing their role, whether it's to slow the spread of this disease or whether it's to retool entire factories to kind of meet the demand. I think there's potential for a great story there.
Yeah, especially now you're talking about these days where you have, the country's so divided politically, and this would be a win just for the country, right? It wouldn't be the win for the right or the left. It would be a win for private industry stepping up, coming together and getting something done. And I think if anything came out of this, that would be a really nice thing to come out of it.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I guess that concludes our sighting of radical brilliance. And now let's go ahead and jump over to our guest speaker, Lighthouse CEO, Brian McManus.
Brian, thank you for joining us. I know you're busy. You got a ton of things going on. And, if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple minutes just to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Bill. And this is sort of the non-radical, non-brilliant part of the podcast, I think. So it's great to be here and great to be talking to you all. My background is I'm actually refer to myself as a recovering lawyer. I practiced law in the city of Seattle for about 11 years and then went to work for one of my clients in the telecommunications software space in the early 1990s and then became the CEO of that company in the mid-90s. Lighthouse is actually the fifth technology-centric business that I've run in my career, and two of those other companies have been publicly held entities. So yeah, that's my background. A lot of background in technology, and it's kind of come full circle here to end up back in the legal space with Lighthouse.
We're actually recording this on the 25th anniversary of Lighthouse, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. It started in 1995 as a kind of classic copy and scan shop. I was not involved in the company at the time. Didn't have any copy and scan work to do at my telecom software company. But it's been around for 25 years.
Pretty amazing.
Brian, we're truly in crazy times right now. In the midst of this COVID-19 situation, can you maybe just walk us through what are your priorities at a time like this?
Great question. I mean, the first thing that came to all of our minds on the executive team was just the safety and health of the people. It seemed very distant at first, hearing reports from China, and then it became very, very real when we had people in Kirkland. Sort of some of the first cases in the U.S. were right in our area, right in our backyard. So it became really real for us. Second priority was really our clients' work. I mean, I know we had some outreach from them, and they were very concerned about our ability to support them again, because the first cases were popping up in Washington. And then third was just really being communicative, both with our clients and our people. Those are kind of our top three priorities. We wanted to be really transparent with our clients and our team and stay connected, so nobody felt on an island or not knowing what we were doing as a company, which we were hearing from a lot of other peers in our community that they were having trouble staying connected. And we sort of take for granted at Lighthouse some of the things that we do routinely because we have so many remote workers, but it really reinforced how important that communication was. So we probably had myself and two other execs and a couple of PAC leaders reach out to probably 30 different peers and companies in our office locations, see what they were doing, hearing what they were anticipating, what the health authorities in different states were recommending. We actually put together, what we call a COVID team, and it was initially about 15 people. It's now 44 people across the world. And we do twice weekly stand-ups. What are you learning? What are you hearing? What are people's questions and concerns? Not just clients, but what are our employees' questions and concerns? As you guys know, I put an email to the team out really early on saying, hey, tell us about your experiences, your families and clients, and let people know. I certainly don't have a crystal ball, and just ask people to be adaptable here, bring your best every day, and let's figure this out together.
Yeah, I knew there was a twice a week stand up with the HR team for Bill, but I didn't realize that there was a COVID team.
Yes, there was.
It's funny how they fit that into the schedule. You touched on this a little bit. So keeping in mind the safety of the employee and keeping in mind we have responsibilities here, right? We have to continue on as a business. So we are a company that has sort of embraced the work from home aspect of what's possible with our jobs. But that's had to be affected, right? I don't know to what degree it's been affected, but how do you balance that, right? The need to be effective, but also the safety of the employees and allowing more people to work from home.
Yeah, well, at this point, it's not really balancing. We made the determination of who absolutely has to be, in a physical office to perform their work, and the leaders of those groups. And those are the only people who can come into the office. It didn't start out that way, but that's the way it is now. And I don't think there's really a balancing to be done here. We're doing the things that we think are the safest for our people. And we feel like we can be really effective at supporting our clients, in the manner that we have. So, but it was interesting how it was evolved because, we started back in January before the virus hit. Probably 50% of our employees on any given day were working from home, and there were probably another 10 to 20% that would work occasionally from home. And, so we had a really big percentage of our workforce. I would say probably 70% of our workforce who were already effective working remotely. And so for us now, that's moved from, probably 90 to 95% of our workforce is working from home. And but we had a very, very big percentage that was really effective at it. And I think that group shared their learnings across the teams. And, we did a webinar this morning with a bunch of clients and prospects of sharing our tips on working from home. And some of them are humorous, but a lot of them are really effective about connecting, and using video conferencing in particular is a really, really effective way, I think, of staying connected.
I know I'm one of the employees that traditionally works from home, but now my wife works from home because of all this. And she's actually asked me to ask you if I could go to the office and get out of home. I was hesitant to ask because I don't want the answer to be yes, but she sort of told me when I told her we were doing this podcast today to make sure that I got that question to you.
Well, like I said, we made the determination who absolutely has to be here to perform their work, and part of that might be who has to be here to actually be alive. We haven't actually put that question from the COVID team, but I will do that now, Bill, for Regina's benefit. So
thank you. I'll give you my wife's email. Yeah, thank you.
It's a great question about that balancing, but I think what's been energizing for me, I guess is maybe the best way to say it, is the team has really rallied around this remote workforce and connecting together by video. We had a video town hall where we had, I think, about 440 out of 500 people participate last Friday, and that was super impressive to see everybody engaged and talking about their experiences. And on the client side, what we're hearing from our clients is they feel like we haven't missed a beat and that we're supporting them. They've used words like seamless, and I know that they're not getting the same their same experience with some other of their suppliers in the industry. So that's been great to see.
Well, and I think it's probably just a characteristic about our industry is that, we're always kind of used to being very responsive to our clients and have them drive a lot of what we do. How can you maybe just share with us, I'm sure that was, top of mind. How did you do this initial outreach to our clients to kind of get that sense of what was going on and what we could do to support them?
Yeah, we reached out right away to a few clients. We have this client advisory board of 14 clients, 7 law firms, and seven of our corporate clients. And so I sent an email out to them very early on and asked them to engage with me on kind of what they were seeing, hearing in their states, and whether they had any concerns about how we would work together, reminding them of our remote capabilities and how we were monitoring our productivity and our metrics for them to ensure we were seeing similar turnaround times and throughput, which we were. That was one thing. We also wanted to engage with them, and then we broadened out to about another 20 clients or so. And we had about 10 incoming clients who reached out to us directly early on and said, hey, what are you guys doing around COVID? And, are you going to be able to support us? So there was concern there too. But one of the things that we've been asking our clients are, what are they hearing from courts and regulators on deadlines? What are their expectations? Are there going to be any different kinds of needs from us, if they wanted us to work any differently? For example, set up some video conferences to stay connected. And the feedback has just been great. I mean, they're very appreciative of the outreach. And what's kind of interesting is we have had more video conferences with clients than ever before, even though we had the capability before. But now they are wanting to have those. You have this little kind of interesting dynamic that it's more personal. You're seeing people in their homes, they're seeing you in your homes, and that's kind of an interesting just output of this whole situation. Somehow you feel a little bit closer, I think.
Yeah, I've been wearing my Spider-Man mask on a lot of the video conference calls, as you guys know, and I think that's some clients have taken that well. Some clients have hung up on me, oddly enough. And look, but in all honesty, we had you guys know, the three of us were on a call together yesterday with a client. It was one of those 3-hour marathons that was going to be in person that got rescheduled to be remotely, and I thought it went seamless. I mean, listen, you have there was like 10 on our side, there was another 15 to 20 on their side, and everybody was dialing in remotely. So there's always going to be a little bit of lag and questioning or people talking over each other. But for the most part, I thought that went great. I know the client was really appreciative afterwards and reached out to me to express that.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think they've been very appreciative, feel like they've been super supported. Frankly, I think people are finding that they can be effective remotely, and I think that's a good thing.
And Brian, like for our clients in the legal world, like how is this impacting their business? Like, are we seeing, are they seeing deadlines get pushed and, cases get rescheduled, or is it just kind of business as usual?
Well, it's neither really. The broad themes, I think, are a lot of people are struggling with the transition to remote work, but they are adjusting. And I would say what we're seeing is an uptick in work after seeing, maybe a week to 10 days where it was really, you could tell people were struggling and kind of triaging. So it feels like it's getting back to a normal work pace in terms of new matters coming in and our clients being able to be really responsive and productive from our end. What we've seen is the courts and regulatory agencies have not typically moved any deadlines in the U.S. In the UK, we've seen some deadlines pushed out and some courts not accepting new matters. So I think we'll see a little bit of a slowdown as a result of that. But I do think that even though people are still a little bit in shock and some there's uncertainty about exactly when things are going to return to a little bit more normal work and personal lives. We're seeing the work be really, really consistent and still very demanding.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it seems like there's a big difference kind of depending on the client. Like, if you had a portion of your workforce that was remote before, it was a lot easier. But I talked to a client this morning who said that, they were always 100%, in the office, and now they've had to shift to this 100% remote, and it's been a real struggle.
It has, and as there's tools out there too that are, kind of require physical presence. And I think one of the things that we'll probably see is more engagement with SaaS kinds of products and collaboration platforms like Teams and Zoom and the things that are popping up now that people find pretty effective.
So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on today for this emergency podcast, beyond the fact that you've been emailing us incessantly and asking to be on, is the your role as a CEO of the company, right? So being in charge of all these employees, but also being the CEO of a services company essentially, and like in the responsibility to your clients. What do you think the lasting impact is, both to Lighthouse and to the clients that we have on our roster?
Well, I think divorce lawyers and therapists should see a big spike in work. I mean,
yeah. Should I find that odd that my wife's
Bill, your wife actually suggested that to me, and
she's called all the good divorce lawyers in my town. I don't know what to think of that.
I think there will be a big spike in sunscreen sales too when this is over. Rob's wife actually mentioned that to me. So.
Oh, believe me, we're always well stocked.
No, I think I kind of alluded to this earlier. I do think people will find there's been a lot of bias against remote working. I had it myself, back in 2014, 2015, when we sort of embarked on this journey to start, enabling more of our people to work remotely and frankly to recruit remotely, because we were having a difficult time finding great talent in the locations we were in. I think people are finding is that the remote workforce can be incredibly productive. Cutting out commute times can be really beneficial to both work and personal lives. So, I think you're going to see a lasting impact of remote work being embraced by a lot of companies. I'm very hopeful. I want to zoom out for a second here that we are able to get this virus under control and get back to sort of an ability to interact, when you want to. And I am worried about the biggest lasting impact of this, just being recessionary and creating a lot of pain for people. So hopefully we'll get through that in sort of a 3 to 6 month period. I know there's some writers thinking this could be a couple year impact, but I'm hopeful that won't be the case. But in addition to the remote working, I think you're going to see a lot more emphasis on process and tools that capitalize on location independence. So I talked about Teams, but Slack, Zoom. I think there will be a lot more use of the cloud. I think we'll see an acceleration of companies moving to the cloud. And what I'm seeing and reading, hearing from my peers is one of the things that they're recognizing is they're really vulnerable around the management of their own infrastructure when they have to be remote. And that's been an interesting epiphany, I think, for a number of people. I think we'll see more use of modern tools like Spectra, SaaS-based tools from replacing, it'll be an acceleration of those, replacing on-prem kinds of tools. I think we'll see more managed services in the law firm world, in particular, a recognition through this, I think, period of time that having a partner that you can rely on that has the ability to manage things remotely is really, really powerful. And I think we'll see more reliance on outsourcing in general as teams get pared down in response to, I think, an economy that I think will struggle here for at least the next 6 months. I think the other impact is just there will be a lot of people, I think, that lose jobs. I mean, it was really disheartening to see 3 million people apply for unemployment last week, and a lot of people are projecting it's going to go up to 5 to 10 million. That's a lot of pain. And so, I think what the other impact we'll see is some businesses that are not so well positioned to be able to kind of make it through this time frame, and there'll be a bit of a shakeout, I think, that we've got to all deal with. And I think for Lighthouse in particular, I think we're fortunate to have a lot of big business clients and big firms that have lots of staying power, and hopefully all of us will emerge a little bit stronger over time based on the lessons that we learned here.
Well, Brian, it's been great of you to take this time out. I know there's a lot going on, and maybe just to kind of sum up some of the key points, from the CEO's perspective, definitely a balance of trying to prioritize taking care of, our people in the company while also trying to take care of our clients. We're not certain about, what will happen with this. And I think a lot of our clients feel the same way, but, clearly, they're like, at least not immediately seeing, deadlines get pushed and cases get canceled, but there's uncertainty about what the longer term effects of this. And I think as far as our plan of reaching out and trying to, get the pulse on what's happening, I think really was heavily involved with reaching out to our client advisory board and kind of that other layer of key clients that have kept us in the loop and helped us respond to their world. And finally, the lasting impact, who knows? But I think you're right, and embracing more of a remote workforce, using those collaboration tools, and maybe selling commercial real estate stocks, at least for the short to medium term. But thank you again. We know that you have a lot going on, and it's been great to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, and you could disable all those bots that you've had our dev department build to hit up my Twitter account en masse to book you on this podcast. I mean, we've had you on. Now back off, okay? It's enough. It's enough.
And at least having Bill's wife, having someone to vent to over the last couple of weeks, I think.
Listen,
that's been good.
Let me tell you the truth. This has actually hit my wife really hard. She's a mess over this. And not like every night I walk into the foyer. This is truth. She's sitting at the window, crying, just looking distant. I've even considered letting her back in the house, but rules are rules. So I'm not going to just yet. But if this thing blows another couple of weeks, and I think I'll let her back in. She's gonna kill me if she ever listens to this. By the way,
she should probably. Anyway, thank you guys for having me on. I will disconnect the bots. So,
thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.